I'm going to make some extra sauce here, some to to cover some of the chicken and finish braising it in the oven. Talking about braising this week, so covering that. If you see the bottom of the pan here, look at all that nice, beautiful brown there. Okay, now we don't want to burn this. I don't want to. So I'm going to really watch the heat at this point. There's some extra fat there, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of drain off a little bit of this excess fat. It's not too much. We don't want our sauce to be super fatty, okay? But what I want to make sure we do is get all that beautiful flavor off the bottom of this pan, right? And we'll do that through a couple stages here. A little bit of deglazing with some white wine, but first, I'm going to go ahead and add in some butter. I'm watching our heat here. It doesn't have to be extremely hot for this process, okay? Shallots. What we're going to do is just turn this down to a nice sweat. Okay? So already lots of caramelization and color on the bottom of that pan. It's all going to release into our shallots and our butter. Throw our mushrooms in there as well. Give them a little saute. More heat. A little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. Easy on this at this stage. There's going to be some salt and pepper in the bottom of this pan from the searing process. And a lot of these mushrooms get a good color, good saute. You already see a lot of that flavor releasing off the bottom of the pan. It's good. I'm just going to let it continue to cook here for about a minute. So those mushrooms are soft, gets a little bit of color all the way through. While that's happening, I'm going to prepare some fresh tarragon. Now, I'm not going to add this to the very end. This is what's called what I refer to as a soft herb. And in this lesson, we're actually going to cover using both types of herbs, a soft herb and a hardier herb. Now, softer herbs, like tarragon, you want to add them at the end of the cooking process so they're more vibrant. They won't lose their color, and they don't hold up to cooking very well. They don't love heat. So adding them towards the end of the cooking process is advantageous. Whereas a hardier herb like rosemary or thyme, which we're going to use later on with our potatoes, is something you can actually get away with applying a little bit of heat to. So run my knife through that there for a second. Tarragon's got a nice licorice or anise flavor to it. Mince that up. Off to the side. Come back to that. Checking on those mushrooms. Looking pretty good. Mushrooms are cooked mostly through. Alright. Smells great. Next, deglaze a little white wine. This step is going to help us get everything off the bottom of that pan, the acidity from the wine. It's key in the deglazing process here to remove that fond. And now you can see you've got this nice, light colored brown liquid. Let that reduce for a minute. And then I have some brown stock or some beef stock here ready to add to the sauce. I also have a little bit of tomato concassé, seeded tomato ready to go. We're going to add that in the end. Once again, doesn't need to be cooked a lot. I'm going to leave some for finishing, and some I'm going to put into this sauce that we're going to braise the meat with as well. Now once you've got your wine about 50% reduced, okay, it's thickening up in the bottom of the pan, and as you can see, the bottom of the pan is clean, right? So we've gotten all that fond off. It is in the sauce now. No wasting of the flavor. We're going to add the brown stock. heat a little bit. Just bring it to a quick boil, and we'll turn it down to a simmer. I'm going to put about half the tomatoes in here. The other half I'm going to add to the finishing sauce with the tarragon. So, let's go ahead and clean up a bit. This tarragon can actually just go into that bowl with that tomato. It's good to go. Tidy up. Just want to bring it a little closer to the pan so you can see it's came up to a boil. I'm going to turn it down to a little bit of down to a simmer. At this point, the sauce is relatively thin. Smells great. I mean, you can go ahead and give it a little taste at this point, see where the flavors are at. Probably use a little bit of salt. I'm not going to add quite yet because still a little bit of reducing to go on here. Now we can going to thicken this using a cornstarch slurry. So a little cornstarch and cold water. Mix that well. Just put a little bit of that in there. Always add like a little bit at a time. It takes a little bit of heating to activate the cornstarch, so it starts thickening. Whisk that in. Then your sauce will start to thicken, and that way you can control the consistency you're getting the sauce to. If you put too much in one go, it might get too thick, and then now you're like, okay, now I've got to work backwards. Now I'm going to start adding, stock or water to thin it down so that my sauce isn't so thick. So remember, just add a little bit at a time. Let it cook out until it thickens. And the other thing is that if you don't let it cook out enough, when you're using cornstarch, you can really have a tendency to taste it in your food. It'll start to have like this kind of like chalky kind of taste or flavor to it. So you don't want to taste that. It's a little hot here, just turn it down a bit. It's a little bit more starch. And when you're doing a smaller volume of sauce like this, the cornstarch works very quickly. If you have a pot with a lot more volume, say you're doing like a big soup, it's going to take a little bit more time for it to activate. But as you can see, got a pretty good consistency there. So if my oven's preheated at 350, okay, sauce is good to go here in the pan. I've got white meat, kind of the one side of the pan, dark meat to the two drums here, and thighs on the end. I'm going to take some of the sauce and we're just going to put it in this pan. The chicken. Now, not so much to cover it completely, but just enough to coat the bottom of the pan and go maybe about halfway up. And we'll save the rest of the sauce for finishing. Now for cooking temperatures, we're looking to get our dark meat up to 175, 180 degrees Fahrenheit. And we're looking for 160, well 165 on your breast meat. Okay. That. Make sure that nice crispy skin is exposed. And we're going to fire that right into the oven. Set a timer for about 15 minutes and then check your internal temperatures at that point.